So, in doing this for a live audience for the first time, I have missed a very important step that I would suggest you do not. So, your oil filter. So, the purpose of that is to filter out any gunk or crud that could be in your oil. I was moving too fast, rushing myself, and I happened to miss mine. So, another key tip, don't rush it. You have all the time in the world, right? So mine is actually up in here. So let's see if I can get you in there. So it's actually up in between my exhaust right there. So this one does not, but the new one that I just bought does have this very cool little nut on the end. So that allows me to, easily be able to put it in and take it out. So what we are going to do, as my video is still on, is we are going to use what's called a strap wrench. So it's a very simple tool. Basically all it is it's a piece of rubber that goes into a clamp like this, right? And then you cinch it down, and as you tighten it, this little bend right here constricts it and tightens it, and that allows you to turn it. So because I don't have a nut on this oil filter, I have to use a strap wrench. Or sometimes, if you're lucky, it's not slick, you can grab it and you can twist it. I'm gonna try and just twist it out, but we'll see how that goes. So let's get back up there. All right, so one thing to look out for is I have what's called lava wrap. It's just a heat shield, but it's wrapped. So basically what it is it's fiberglass, and you can get fiberglass livers. So I'd recommend wearing gloves, but I already have it on my hand, so I'm just gonna go for it. And watch out when you take this filter out, because they do have a tendency to splash oil, or sometimes it can get on your face. So I'd just recommend being careful. So I was able to get it spinning a little bit. We'll see if I can get it off though. All right, so it did come off. So towards the end, there's quite a few threads on there, but just be careful. See, because like I'm dripping oil, just like that. So let it drip. Whatever drips out, no big deal. Again, very important to have your cardboard underneath you. So I'm just gonna keep going. And it is very slippery, so try to keep your hand underneath it so you don't drop it. You just go down. I can set it in the bin since I have one. Then I'm going to grab my rag that I have already ready and prepared, and I'm going to wipe my hand off. Go ahead and let that drain for a minute. Whatever comes out, wait till it stops, steady flowing. A little drip is okay, but you want to get that little stream out. I don't know if you can see it, but it's still streaming pretty good out of there. So all right, so now that I have almost wiped my hands all the way down, so my new filter, like I said, has a nut on the end of it. So I'm still going to be using my 16-inch breaker bar, but instead I'm going to be using the socket that fits the end of the filter, which happens to be a 1-inch. So you can see there's a rubber gasket around the end here. So basically what that does is it allows a seal to be made between the filter and your motor. So what I like to do is I like to actually dip my finger in the oil and soak that gasket a little bit. So what that does is it allows it to slide without tearing the gasket as you go to put it back on. Some people will fill their filter with oil before putting it on, but in my opinion, it makes a lot of mess, and the oil quantity that's given to you by the manufacturer is based on having an unfull oil filter. So I do not fill my oil filters, and I put them on with just that little ring, that little O-ring, all nice and lubed up so that it doesn't tear. And I bought the aftermarket one, which is K&N. So they're a performance oriented company. So they make performance parts for a lot of vehicles. And the cool thing is that they actually have better longevity as far as the performance. So they'll do a better job at filtering your oil, or in my case, I also have a K&N air filter. So that will also, it just lasts longer. So if you have the money, I would recommend spending a little bit extra, buy something like a K&N or a K&N that's going to outlast a lot of the other competition. So now that I've got that up there and it stopped dripping, I'm going to tighten it down. Don't go too tight with it. I'd say somewhere between, I don't know, with something about this long, so 16 inches, I would say put somewhere close to what you would say is 5 pounds of force on the end, maybe somewhere between 5 and 10. So just enough so that you get a really good seal on it, but not enough to basically crack the filter from the inside out, because it is basically just sheet metal up in there. So you don't want to do any damage to parts that probably should not be damaged. So since my exhaust goes right here, I have to make sure that I wipe the oil off of it. So the danger of this is oil, when it gets hot, very, very flammable. So you have to make sure that you wipe it off nice and good. And I like to go back and wipe off my oil filter so that it, you know, it just looks nice. You might not see it, but for some people like myself, it's just it's a conscious thing that I think about on a regular basis is, you know, what's wrong with my car? Is it clean? Do I have any leaks? So having something under here that's clean, not dripping, allows you to be able to get on the ground, look underneath your car, and see if you're actually leaking. And if you didn't clean it, then you can have a false illusion that your car's leaking. So that's how you put in an oil filter. Now, we will be going up for part 2 on putting oil in.